Today on the big story, be careful of who you speak to online. They may not be who they claim to be. The number of people being scammed on social media has jumped by more than 9 times in the past 3 years. It's not SARS and there is no evidence of human-to-human transmission so far. So what is this mysterious Wuhan virus? And should Singaporeans be worried? Singapore's latest large estate, Bidadari, is coming to life as the first batch of residents move into their flats. Stay on to have a look at the new estate. It's Tuesday, 7 January. This is the big story where we will discuss the hottest topic of the day and explain why it matters. I'm Haryanto Diman, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. The number of internet impersonation scams has spiked over the past 3 years. 3 types of scams show this upward trend: impersonations involving social media, tech support, and China officials. The number of social media impersonation scams spiked from 71 in 2017 to 672 cases last year. Tech support scam cases quadrupled by 53 in 2017 to 224 cases. And China officials' impersonation scam cases have roughly doubled from 188 cases in 2017 to 401 cases. Most of the victims, 6 in 10, were aged in their 20s to 40s. This trend of young people being scammed by impersonators bears out in findings for other scams, which Home Affairs Minister K. Shanmugam revealed in a written parliamentary reply on Monday. To discuss more on this, we have journalist Clara Chong. Welcome, Clara.
Yes, hey.
Now, Clara, past scams are usually through phones or in persons, right? What is the modus operandi for these internet impersonation scams?
So usually the scammers would just impersonate and take over like spoof like Facebook or Instagram accounts, and then they'll contact you pretending to be like a friend that you know, and then they will try and get you to like send money and or even provide like confidential details.
Right. And that is for all 3 scams?
That is mainly for social media scams, which we have seen like a rise in the number of young people who have fallen prey to these scams.
Yeah, and what is that so?
Yeah, and it's mainly because young people they spend more time online.
Yeah.
And then after that, they're also more willing to like give their information, like bank account details, or make purchases online as well.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, it's easy for them to become targets to these kind of scammers.
Yeah.
And they don't always. And they're not as skeptical.
Right.
So in that sense, it makes them easier.
Right. And what about the other 2 scams? The one with the tech support scam, as well as the China official scam?
So the tech support scam, usually the scammers will impersonate to be, let's say, from telcos like Singtel.
Yeah.
And then they will come and maybe call you and say like, oh, there's like this internet network problem.
Right.
And then maybe can they come over to like try and fix it and things like that. So sometimes they like to make the problem more generic so that you think that you are encountering it even though you may not.
Yeah.
So something like the internet is lagging, which people encounter on a very frequent basis.
Yeah.
And then if you don't do proper checks, you would just think that, oh yeah, maybe it's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, Clara, is it surprising to see this upward trend among the young generation? You know, the belief is that young generation is usually more tech savvy.
Yeah. So actually tech savviness doesn't mean that you are discerning to what you see on the internet. So sometimes people might just, even though you're tech savvy and you know how to use all the gadgets and things online, but it doesn't mean that you actually know what is real or fake on the internet. So I guess one way is for young people, or actually everyone, the public in general, to actually make checks. Like if let's say they get a message on Facebook saying like, oh, I need some help from a friend saying that they need some help they need some like financial assistance or whatever, to actually just call or text that person to make sure to verify that it's actually yes, the correct person saying
the authenticity of it, right?
That's
just
right.
to authenticate the person. And having said that, how then people should safeguard against these scams?
I think apart from making checks, there's also like a lot of online, the police have also had this scamalert.sg, whereby they actually educate the public on like the different types of scams, and it also shows the latest figures about, that has been updated from 2019.
I think at the end of the day, what is most important is you be discerning, right?
Yes.
And if you feel that there is something off, or if you feel uneasy, or just something fishy, just check with the authorities, just to authenticate the whole text message.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much, Clara, for coming on to the show to explain more on this. Now, to read more, you can check it out on our website, straitstimes.com. In the latest on Wuhan's mystery pneumonia outbreak, Chinese health authorities have ruled out severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, as the cause. The World Health Organization also said it found no evidence of human-to-human transmission. Some 59 people in Wuhan have come down with the virus. Hong Kong has activated a newly created serious response level as the number of affected patients jumped to 15 on Sunday. Singapore's first suspected case, a 3-year-old girl with a history of travel to Wuhan, is not linked to the cluster there. It turns out she has respiratory syncytial virus. Singapore experts told the Straits Times that there is no need to cancel trips to Wuhan, but to monitor and the Health Ministry's advice. Now we have senior health correspondent Salma Halik in the studio with us to share more about this virus. Welcome, Salma.
Hello.
Now, Salma, the question is, do we need to be worried at this point? According to experts that ST spoke to, Singaporeans need not be alarmed, right?
Actually, that was not exactly what they said. They said you don't need to panic.
Right.
But you should still be on high alert because it could come here. So yeah, maybe they shouldn't be alarmed, but they shouldn't be totally unconcerned either.
Yep.
Right? Don't forget, SARS came from China and it only took one person.
For the virus to spread, right?
Yes.
And Salma, so far, what do we know and not know about the virus from the Chinese health authorities and WHO's findings?
Well, I think so far they have eliminated most of the known pneumonia viruses. So the chances are this is likely to be a totally unknown, a new species, new coronavirus.
Right.
Well, there's belief that it's likely to be a coronavirus. That's what SARS was, that's what MERS was, the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. So if it is the case, that's another potential problem.
Right. And of course, we do know that the virus so far is quite contained to people who are in the city itself, and specifically to the market, right?
No, actually what we know so far is that all these people probably caught it not from another human being.
Okay.
So if it's not human to human, it's still quite safe because then it won't spread very easily. But you do realize that viruses mutate, and when that happens, it could go from human to human. But usually when that happens, it becomes less virulent. I mean, it wants to survive, so it usually doesn't kill the host. Usually, not always.
Okay. And Salma, with that, what precautions then can we take against this Wuhan virus? Now, this is, of course, I'm speaking also with the text message that has been floating around on WhatsApp as well, with the advice saying that, oh, you shouldn't do this, you should do that,
Okay, now, two different things, right?
Yes.
Let's start with the hoax that's going around that says it comes from the MOH and it tells people to sip water all the time, don't drink plenty of water, but sip it, etc. Now, that's a hoax. It doesn't come from the Ministry of Health, but it's not altogether bad because hydrating yourself does protect you to a certain degree against infections. So drinking water is not a bad advice. So that's not too bad. On other precautions, well, if you have to go to Wuhan, try not to go to the wet markets.
Okay,
and I guess as soon as you've got the symptoms, go and see a doctor just in case.
Right.
It is that.
Right. So there you have it, Salma. So just to make sure, the text message that is floating around saying that it is from MOH, that is a hoax. But the advice itself, I mean, hey, it's always good to keep yourself hydrated.
Yes, but it says different things, right? So don't believe everything you see in that message.
Yeah, I think primarily it's about keeping hydrated.
Yes.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Salma, for coming on to the show, to share with us more about this outbreak. Now, to read more on the Wuhan pneumonia outbreak, you can head on to our website, straitstimes.com. And now let's move on to What's Trending, where Kim will share with us what's buzzing in the internetverse. Over to you, Kim.
Haryanto. It's time for What's Trending. First up, a baby boy was found alive at the bottom of a rubbish chute in Bedok North this morning, wrapped in a plastic bag. The baby appeared to be a newborn, and photographs taken showed that there were blood stains on the bag. Onlookers said that the baby was not crying when the police arrived. Paramedics also attended to him. There were no visible injuries on the child, and his condition was stable. He was later taken to KK Women's and Children's Hospital. Next up, neighbour woes. Singapore's first ever exclusion order directed a couple to leave their residence after they were found to have breached an earlier court order to stop making noise. Now, the couples and their family have said that they do not intend to comply, with the couple's son adding that he will be appealing against the order. Mr. David C., who filed the initial complaint, intends to file a magistrate complaint to privately prosecute his neighbours for breaching the exclusion order. And finally, some good news for vegans out there. Impossible Foods debuts its first plant-based pork products, namely the Impossible Pork and Impossible Sausage. Though they have yet to announce plans to sell its ground pork product, its sausage will be rolled out starting in late January at 139 Burger King locations in 5 test markets across America. Let's hope it comes to Singapore soon. And that's all we have for What's Trending today. If you've seen a story you want to share, link it in the comment section below. Back to you, Haryanto.
I suppose with this whole array of vegan options, I think it's probably time to turn vegan. I'll consider. Now, thanks, Kim. Dreaming of a home in the midst of lush greenery with a good location to boot? Well, it's a dream come true for 881 families who have been progressively collecting their keys and moving into their new HDB flats in Bidadari, Singapore's latest large estate. The first batch of residents have moved into 2 build-to-order projects, Alcove Lakeview and Alcove Vista. Greenery is one of the highlights at Bidadari, which was once the site of Singapore's largest cemetery. ST spoke to a couple who waited 4 years for their home and were one of the first to move into Alcove Vista.
We are staying here at Bidadari, Alcove Vista. We've been staying here for now coming close to a month. So I guess as the first few residents to move in, there is some inconveniences in terms of, we are aware that a lot of other units are still doing renovation, and with our baby, dust is definitely a concern for us, but we just take the appropriate measures to try and keep our house as dust-free as possible. So I know Bidadari used to be a cemetery. We used to drive past. I think for my husband and I, we're both not superstitious, and I think we were more excited looking at how this place will be developed in the future.
We have with us journalist Michelle Ng, who went to Bidadari Estate over the weekend. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi.
Now, Michelle, could you tell us more about the amenities found in the estate? Now, what's open now and what's due to open? It is a relatively new estate, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's still very much in its beginning stages.
Yeah.
So at this point, not many shops are open yet. Like for example, in Alcove Vista, only a coffee shop and 2 other shops are open, like a salon and a hardware store.
Yeah.
But progressively, as more residents move into the 2 developments, more shops will start opening up. So, for example, things like preschool, like childcare centres, and supermarkets will open soon.
All right. And of course, HDB's vision of this place is a community in a garden.
Yeah.
Does it live up to that vision?
Actually, I think from my walk around the estate, you can kind of tell that nature is going to play like a really big part in this area.
Yeah.
So for in each development, so within each HDB development, there's like a roof garden. So all the blocks around it are connected to this roof garden, so people can just so it's basically like a rooftop garden void deck where people can gather and hang out. There's exercise corners and children's playground, and also there's going to be an upcoming Bidadari Park in the area. It's quite a huge park. It's like 10 hectares. In there will be like experiential trails and heritage walks and nice lakes, and people can just hang out there in the evening and on weekends.
Now, she also spoke to some residents as well who have moved in. What are their general sentiments towards the estate? Right now, of course, renovation is still ongoing. There is dust, and are they settled in nicely?
Right now, I guess in the beginning stage of like moving into a new estate is always going to have like a lot of renovation dust and noise, and and maybe when you call for a taxi, they can't really find your location because it's like a new area.
Yeah.
So, but I guess all the residents I've spoken to, they understand, and they know that this is not going to be forever.
Yep.
Like, but I guess after a 4 years wait for your house, it's kind of worth it to them, I guess.
Right. And of course, a lot of people are curious, right? Because the Bidadari area used to house the largest cemetery here in Singapore, right? What about the residents' response to that? It being a grave site in the past. Are they concerned? Did they mention anything about that?
Actually, I think most of the residents who balloted for a flat there, I think they basically don't really mind. I
but
guess
they know, right?
They know, yeah. Like, but then again, you see like places like Bishan, for example. Bishan used to house a cemetery as well. It wasn't as big as Bidadari's, but 30 years later, no one really remembers that Bishan was once a cemetery. I'm sure in time to come, people will think of Bidadari as like an estate rather than like a ex-cemetery.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of parts of Singapore as well used to have a history as well.
Exactly.
Right? I guess over time with development and all that, you're right, you kind of like just forget about it. Well, thank you so much, Mitch, for coming onto the show to share with us more about the new Bidadari estate. To read more about the estate, you can visit the Straits Times website. There we have it, our top stories for today. For more news and videos, do log on to our website, straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Haryanto. See you tomorrow for more stories on A Big Story.